The third eye, also known as the inner eye, is a mystical and esoteric concept referring to a speculative invisible eye which provides perception beyond ordinary sight. The third eye has been a concept dating back as far as ancient Egypt and is also a predominant role in Hinduism culture, known as the divine seat of knowledge and the sixth chakra. In the reading called The Third Eye, Race, Cinema and Ethnographic Spectacle that was written by Fatima Tobing Roni, she states that the third eye is in conceptual terms the act of feeling a third eye floating out of the body and viewing oneself from that standpoint. This standpoint is one that is extremely neutral, she says, even so neutral such as dispassionate air while a zoologist examines a specimen. She also states that in the reading that minorities or people of color tend to be exposed to instances of glares from a member of another race, and it is with this glance that he knows that he is marked as an other being a savage or primitive that is usually looked upon by the superior races for pleasure. After deep reflection on this gaze, it usually leads to self-internalization or looking at oneself through the eyes of others, or double consciousness, a term coined by W.B. Du Bois, which also allows for self-clarity even though it is unveiling socially mediated self-alienation. When we wish to gaze at savages or people from lands that are not technically advanced and is outside the bounds of society, we watch ethnographical pieces. We can see people that attempt to have minimal contact with the outside world and are of a different race or color. Some of the extremes of this being the Sentinelese people of the North Sentinel Islands, who, as we can see in this clip, are viewed upon by tourists and thrown coconuts at. The third eye in cinema is where one is viewing a movie and enveloping themselves in their character, usually the main protagonist. The implication that is usually involved is that the audience or onlooker seems to connect usually with the person with the largest state of agency and one that the viewer can connect with. It is therefore hard, as Fatima Tobing Roni says, to picture themselves with a character that is weak and servile as opposed to one that is superior and dominant. In the movie El Norte, I found myself subjected to two instances where I had switched races and characters and found myself conflicted as to where to place myself in the terms of the third eye. At one instance, since I am also an immigrant, but a legal one, I connected with the main character Enrique and felt as though I had to encumber his hard journey. I found myself crawling through rat-filled tunnels and struggling to pay the bills as I am looked upon as an other, a savage in the eyes of the first world. Not being able to fit in anywhere, I really saw myself in this character's shoes in life. I fit in with his role for the most part. That is, however, until I saw him waiting on the wealthy, rich white folk. I somehow found that I couldn't envision myself as him anymore. I now identified with the white people instead. Whether it was jumping into a fancy convertible or eating the feast, I just couldn't see myself as anything other than the upper class, as I have never been in conditions where I've had to serve people the way Enrique and Rosa did. With Enrique being placed in the servile atmosphere here, I imagined what it would be like to request Enrique to bring food out for me as I am sitting around the white folk. This is because of a class difference. I felt that because I can afford more things in real life than a major percentage of people around the world, it would make more realistic sense if I saw myself amongst the wealthy individuals in the picture. We see therefore that there are many implications towards the third eye, such as gender, class, race, characteristics, etc. If we really inspect the third eye, we notice that it comes upon almost every facet of viewing and cinema. We take upon the roles of people we perceive ourselves to be, but yet don't try to perceive ourselves in our truest senses. What I mean by this is that if one can achieve successfully opening his or her third eye and look at themselves without objectification, they can achieve true self-clarity and clairvoyance. I think that the concept of the third eye is the most fascinating concept because ancient civilizations have known about this true inner wisdom long before we have, and we must try to learn more about it on a regular basis.